Welcome back, guys, to Beatnik Garage. I am looking at moving on to some upper quarter panels. Just a recap for what was on the last episode. We shortened the lower quarters and also shortened the subframe that all of the body attaches to. So what we're up to now is upper quarters. I know if you're following along, you're probably fairly interested in how this is going to go. And I did get some good feedback on the last episode. Basically, it seemed a lot of people liked some of the explanation of what was happening. I guess, all of us are really kind of checking this stuff out because it's cool, and also hopefully we pick up some new skills along the way. So I'm going to try to do that a little bit on this episode as well. Make sure it's understood why I'm cutting, where I'm cutting. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, let's get into this. All right, so this is just a garbage set of calipers from Harbor Freight, but I wanted to show with these the importance of where to cut for really any of these kinds of things where you're going to have to match some panels back up. So what I would like to show, try to keep this in frame, you can see here is narrower than here and here, of course. So what I want to do, I know I want to take 3 inches out of this. This is a definitive 3 inches. Unlike the bottom, it was 2.5 because I had to put a flange around the end. So that's where my extra half came from. Anyway, so what I want to do is, ideally, where I'm going to cut this, the 2 points, which I have marked currently, would basically be exactly the same, and that is spot on. So 1.457 is what's going on right here where I want to cut this. If you go here, just as an example, I think you can see that the calipers are it's just simply too big for that. But just to give you an idea, this back here is 1.142. So again, I'm paying a lot of attention to, I don't want to try to take 1.14 and try to match it back up with 1.4. That's just not going to go well. Or obviously that's dramatic. But point being, if I cut anywhere other than right in the middle, it's going to be slightly narrower than the place where I have to butt it up against. So rather than deal with all that and trying to fit all that stuff back, and of course you can do it, it's just a lot of excess work that if you can do it this way, you'll avoid a lot of excess stuff. So I'm doing the same up here. On the top. So again, really just because, I will take a measurement. Yep, and it's spot on 1.25. That's right at the edge of this rule to the flat, off of a flat spot, the flange in the back. But again, point being, I want to take a chunk. Let me get you in here a little better, actually. So again, the chunk I'm taking out of this is right here, from here to here. And the distance here and here is the same, which is not the case. As you get down here, it gets narrower and narrower. So I'm just trying to keep this distance and this distance, when they come back together, they're all even and everything's equal. That's what I'm doing today. This evening, actually. It's, I don't know, like 6 or 7 at night on a Wednesday. I'm hoping I can get this thing cut, tacked back together, cleaned up, tacked back together, and with just tacks, see how it fits on the subframe with the lower quarter panels. So we should be able to make this happen. Let's get after it. All right, so what I've done is laid down some tape just for some higher visibility. I want to validate that I'm taking 3 inches because that's really important. And 3 spot on. I'm gonna make sure it's 3 over here as well. Yep, 3 spot on. All right, so just again, this is just really for visibility for the sake of the camera. I will do the same up here. It's actually a little more important that it's all straight, but again, as long as I take the 3 inches, for sure, we should be okay. So I'll do that right up the side and onto this, and then basically I'm going to do the same thing with the set of calipers and validate that I'm not, as I bring this up onto the top of the roof, that it's not getting wavy on me. There we go. It should be good. I'll check it again here in just a second with calipers. Again, those are just some cheap calipers you can get at Harbor Freight. I wouldn't count on them to do like machinist work or anything, but for what we're doing here, it's more than sufficient. So when I check this with those calipers, I'm also going to check in multiple locations along the way just to make sure. Really, this is being super critical of what I'm doing. It doesn't need to be quite this precise. And so right now, this is too wide, and I can see why on both accounts. So, and this gets too narrow. This gets too narrow by almost 1/8 of an inch. So definitely not the way I want to go. Pop this back off of here. So it gets a little wide in the middle, right over the curve, and then gets a little narrow as it gets in towards the center of the roof. I think that one fix right there probably got it. That's good there. And that's good there. And I could still deal with just a little bit. There we go. Betcha that's good. Again, I say this is kind of being super critical. It's all a matter of opinion, I suppose. You know, you can MIG weld some pretty decent gaps if you wanted to. But the better you fit this stuff, of course, the less problems you're gonna have when it comes time to weld up gaps, which is why I'm trying to make sure that I stay super close, nice and even. And this should be good for what I need to do. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. It is, it's close enough, which a couple thousandths at best of variance there. So close this back up, and here's another one of those moments where I'm nervous, but I know I can't turn back anyway, so it doesn't matter. Let me throw on a grinding hood and get after it with this cutting wheel. Here we go. So I have not cut the very bottom in here, and I have not cut the flange on this side, so everything stays together. That'll make it a little bit easier for me to cut cleanly. One thing you definitely don't want to do is cut blindly. So you saw me probably switch back and forth from side to side. It's because I wasn't really paying attention to whether I could see my line or not. That's why I realized and switched a few times, and ultimately ended up directly over the top of it so I could keep this edge of my blade on the edge of the tape line as close and tight as possible. So that's why you saw me dancing around over it, and ultimately I ended up staring right down over the top of it. So that's what we're doing. I think I'm probably going to go ahead and nip this down on both sides. This piece will fall out, and then I'll have to flip it around and knock that side out. I probably, in hindsight, should have done that side first so that I could lay it on the table as it's sitting right now, and it would have sat a lot more stable. But it is what it is, and I'll do the other one if I think about it. I'll do the other one that way. Inches, probably just under since the width of the blade. All right, turn this around, cut the bottom. I'm sure there's some people that are like, no, why are you doing this? Just cut up a really good sheet metal. We're gonna make it good again, don't worry. Alright, now let's stick her back together. Look what we did. Sorry, I guess I can't blame you guys for it, can I? Stick this bad boy right back together. Everything should go pretty clean. I am going to break out a couple different tools to clean up the edge. I guess probably just a pneumatic die grinder with a 3M pad on it or something to clean up this paint and get it ready for weld. One piece at a time here. So just a heads up, you don't want to thin this old steel out any more than it already is. So in this case, what I'm using is like a 3M Scotch-Brite kind of pad for the roll lock style stuff. Basically, this will remove steel, but you got to work pretty hard to get it removed. So in this case, it's going to do me just what I need, which is to just remove paint. All right, so there's a few things that is good to understand about sheet metal, especially this old. I guess it doesn't really matter how old it is when it's oxidized. You can kind of see there's shiny metal there. That's really what you're going for. You've gotten past the oxide level at that point. When it's black, which there's still definitely some there, there's some right here. When it's black still, that means there's a layer of iron oxide that's going on. So, yeah, there's some right there. You see? That's not good. You can weld through it, you know, it's common. You're gonna end up just with some of this stuff, it's just almost inevitable. But anyway, you definitely wanna watch for that. That is a layer of rust that is still there. If you can get it off and get down to bright, shiny metal, especially when doing something like we're about to do now, that's gonna be best, because as you butt weld these together and then planish them, hammer and dolly them to stretch it back out a little bit as it tightens up from the weld, if there is rust in here, it's going to cause porosity in your weld, and then of course there's going to be pinholes in your weld. That's just not good in the first place. But then once you start hammering on it, it will of course basically take advantage of those holes that are there and exploit those holes and potentially crack even sooner and easier. So that is what you're looking for, a nice bright shiny metal like this. Right there. That's nice and shiny. Again, it's not easy to do with all of this stuff that's been rusted for nearly 100 years. So, all right, let's get on to patching this thing together, see what it looks like. We have to break out about 900 clamps to do this right, but most importantly, oh man, that's beautiful. Perfect. Perfect. That's great. Let's see how this looks up here. And these come together. Same scenario. Man, that's beautiful. Exactly what I was going for. All right. I'm going to unload all my clamps and see what we're going to use to get this all put back together in shape. We, of course, don't want this thing to be out of shape one way or the other at our seam and be folded. That would be terrible. So I want to make sure I have a lot of clamping going on, bring everything in line as best I can, and then make a handful of tacks. From there, I am out of argon right now. Just ran out on a whole aluminum welding job I was trying to do for a buddy of mine. So we're gonna see. We may MIG this and call it good, and we'll go from there. Fortunately, all of it, especially with it off and sitting on my table, I can still get to it with a hammer and dolly. So even though the MIG weld is going to be a little bit harder to hammer weld, I'll still probably be able to work with it just fine. So we get some clamps and we'll get after putting this thing back together. Okay, well, you can kind of see I've got a handful of clamps on this thing. I'm really not happy with it. I am going to have to screw around with it quite a bit to get it right. However, something that's worth noting is that doing a panel with this much curvature on it every which way, trying to clamp it up and then set it on this table without it being supported in the curvature it's supposed to be is really, really cumbersome. So because, let me state why. Because I can clamp this all I want, but the moment I set this panel down on here, it does not support it in the shape that it's supposed to be in. There's absolutely some tension in that panel. So when you start heating up and welding, that tension is trying to draw down. Like in this case, it would try to open up and lay flatter on the table. You will get that tension put into your welds. So what you want to do is get this all clamped up in a position that is most neutral and not trying to weigh the panel one way or the other, and make it as neutral as possible with as little stress in it as possible before you weld it. Even if you're clamping it, it's not quite that simple. There's more to it than that. So I'm going to be fiddling with this for a few minutes. I'm going to spare you all of that right now. I'm going to try to get this situation under control. It is really fitting well. I will say I'm very happy with where my cut line lined up these panels again as I'm trying to fit it together. It's looking really good. So if I can get this thing all clamped in a couple of key spots and be able to just make a few smooth and intentional tacks, we should start to get somewhere with this pretty quickly. I'm gonna spare you some of that. Okay, so I'm gonna end up going against slightly what I just said. Not slightly, all the way. And no doubt, you guys are gonna end up doing the same thing on occasion. Not everything are you gonna be able to set up in a nice mold and get it perfectly situated so that you can weld it up. It just doesn't work that way. So, I'm in the same boat right now. I flipped this thing a whole bunch of different ways, couldn't really get it to lay like I want it to lay, so what I'm gonna do is get a couple of crucial spots set up so that they're gonna be in the right spot. I'm gonna tack them, and then I'll just work around it from there. Keeping an eye the entire time on what my panel looks like. So I'll keep stopping and looking down the panel this way to make sure that this isn't lifting too much or going the other way, and that everything's kind of being pulled back together. The thing to understand about all of this is the most important part of this right now is actually the visual. It's all aesthetics. I need all of these lines to line up. If that means I have to cut a few things where you wouldn't necessarily expect to cut it, it's not a big deal. What you want is when somebody's looking at your car from 15 feet away, 10 feet away, whatever, even closer, that all of this stuff lines up like it's supposed to line up. They're not gonna have any idea that you had to cut a slice in here to make all this stuff come together when you modified it. And even then, who cares? Some people enjoy that stuff. I'm one of those guys. But again, what you're really shooting for is to get all of the lines correct on this thing. So don't be worried if you got to cut up a few other little things to make the lines all flow like they're supposed to. It's just part of the game. So the one that I'm worried about right now is basically this body line that frames out the window. The first one I'm going to tack on is right in the top of that window frame. I'm not going to do a whole lot because I want to make sure that all this comes together correctly. Ah, there we go. Here's some good vice grip ones. That'll do the job the right way. If you can afford to get them, I tell you, I'm promising you, the better clamps are the way to go. They're just a lot more precise. They hold up a lot longer. Alright. Oh yeah, that's great. That's really good. Really good. Nice hot tacks. I like to, when I'm doing sheet metal with MIG, nice hot tacks. Adjust your wire speed so that you can just be in and right back out of it, and your weld tack that you put on lays out nice and flat, not bubbled up. If you do that, it's fine, except for it's kind of cold and you have to grind all that back off. So that's where it doesn't pay to have all that excess. Do nice and hot, quick tacks. This is going just like I want it to right now. Everything's like nice and perfectly fit. Pretty good tacks there. Bring this clamp down a little lower. It's going to be quite tight. There we go. Put a little tack here. You can hear that nice, hot, quick tacks. It's a good way to go. All right, this bottom. Take a look down it and see. Oh yeah, man, that's perfect. Nice and smooth. Everything fit nice and tight. I'll get you in here in just a minute and show you that. Those nice hot tacks that make it all the way through and penetrate, it makes it so much quicker. You just use these roll-lock, hit this stuff real quick, you're damn near done almost right away. You get the tops knocked off of this stuff, and then planish, hammer and dolly planish, and it will straighten out and relieve the stress that's pulled these two panels together when you put a bead on it and put a tack on it. Oh, all right. Clear a few things off the table so I can fit this really well. All right. This needs to come together, which is exactly what this says. Yep. All right, got a nice fit there. So I'm at a point where I want to watch what I'm doing. You can't see it from there. I'll bring in here in just a second, but this panel here is raised up in this arch higher than this is. I think, oh, nope, there it is. I was gonna say, I think it's even back here too, but it's not. So I'll pull this back around with this vice grip and I can kind of tweak what's going on, and it should pull this back in. And then I'll also hit it with a clamp so that I can get this nice and tight where it needs to be. Take this, I got a tiny little hairline gap here. That didn't help at all. It actually screwed me up even more. Oh, I guess that's not bad. Alright. So again, just being super careful to fit this all. Alright, now is when you gotta start watching. So what I've done is I've tacked here on this corner and here on the bottom corner. And that means everything in between is flexible, meaning one can be low, one can be high. You might have too much curvature in one. Now is the time to watch it. I actually don't know that I'll go a whole lot farther before I hang this on the car to see how it looks and fits. It is strong enough at the moment with the tacks that are on it. So we'll show you what we've got so far. We've got. If you measured this from here to here, if I recall correctly, this window now, front to back, is the same length as the door window. So when you look at this from the side, it will no longer look longer in the back. Window-wise, it will look even to the doors, proportionate to the doors. All right, I think I'm going to hang this on the car how it is. So far, so good. Let me actually, before I do that, let me show you guys the fitment that has happened at the seams. Okay, so you can see if I can get you in here nice and close. Because of where I cut it, there's almost no misalignment at all the way down this. There's a little bit of a wide cut that I did right there, no big deal. I can weld right past that. As you see, my tacks are plenty wide. Same scenario here. Pull this in line, all that stuff will be fine. See, all of that went really well. That is the whole point of where I cut it. That was the importance of cutting it like I did now. You can see, just to be truthful here, you can see a slight amount of misalignment from this panel to this panel here at this seam line here. Now, there's a handful of things I can do. What I'll probably do is do my best to align it here. It'll bulge up between these two tacks in this area, and then I'll probably just try to work it, work this seam. I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna do with my drip rails yet, so I don't wanna screw with this too much. Anyway, that's the fitment that we've got pre-tack or in the middle of tacking and fitting. I think I'm gonna hang this on the car real quick. For not paying attention to what's going on. All right, cool. Look at this. Oh, this is good. Let's see if that's a good view for you guys. Look at that. I need to hang a door on here. We need to get a door on here. Well, everything, don't beat me up too bad for any misalignment you see. It's all just laying in place. But now you can see these two windows are the same length, basically. I can take a measurement on it here in just a minute, but I'm pretty sure they're certainly really close, as you can see now. It changes the whole proportions of the car. Now, of course, when I chop the top, it's gonna make all of this look really, really well balanced. And that is why I'm going through all the effort to do all of this. So this makes me stoked because I've been nervous to cut all of these things, and here it is now. The major pieces have all been cut and fit, and it's gonna look amazing. It's gonna look great. I'm really happy with this. Some people may not care for it. Some people may ask why all the extra work for just this look. You know, it is what it is. This is what we like to do. Everybody has their own tastes. Everybody wants to be slightly different. I do know there are other cars running around that are like this. That's why I knew that I liked it. So, you know, let me know whether you like it. Drop some comments in there. Let me know, you know, would you have done something different? Again, I'm gonna drop the top on this thing probably 5 inches. That'll be the next. So, you know, that'll be the next major body work. I can't do any of that until the body is on the frame and mounted up fully. And all of my panels are bolted in, and, you know, basically this whole body is 100% locked down, stable. Then I'm gonna brace it, you know, do all the normal stuff before I bother to chop the top on it. But you see where I'm headed now. This was the vision. Super happy about it. Lots of work to do still, but this was the one, this was the money shot. This is what I was after. Anyway, that's where we're at. This thing is killing it. I love it. I'm really happy with this. Again, biggest point behind this entire episode is gonna be careful where you cut. Think out where you're gonna cut. This doesn't always work for everybody. It doesn't come this clean. These cars in particular, there are plenty of portions of them that are very well laid out and lend themselves to doing stuff like this. You go with like I said before, you do like 50s big fat fendered cars. It doesn't come this easy. It's difficult to make sure you get these kinds of things right. But anyway, you see the importance of trying to get it right out of the first time. So I'm gonna keep going after this, get the rest of this panel tacked together, and then I think I'm probably gonna wrap it up for right now, and I'll get back to the other one next time I'm out in the garage, maybe tomorrow evening. We'll see what's up.